Bienvenidos, Ushamdid, and welcome Anne Arundel Community College learners from the Spring 2023 semester taking the CTS-233 Section 400 Network Programmability course. This is the Cisco Networking Academy's DevASC 200-901 Certification Exam Preparation course, and in this video we're going to continue our exploration into Lab 3.3.11, where we're examining software version control with Git. Now remember, this is going to be part 4 of the lab in your PDF, and we're going to walk through each of the steps. So remember that Git is not GitHub and it is not GitLab. These are mutually exclusive products, and we're going to pick up right where we left off. And in this video, you're going to learn about modifying the file and tracking the changes. So here we have, and we're pretending that this is some very important Python script that we're working on here at our company, and we want to track it with version control. So remember, I can always say git status, and that shows me that, okay, everything looks good, everything's clean, I got nothing to commit, but we have committed something, right? If I say git log, that's going to show me what has been committed here. And you can see we've got the author information, we've got the date, and then we've got a really nice comment. So what we're going to do now is we're going to modify this file. I'm going to use another echo command. Now, you could VI the file and put a bunch of information in there, or if you're using VS Code to write the code and save the file, you could do that. But this is how we're going to modify the file. And this says, I'm beginning to understand Git. Okay, I am beginning to understand Git. And they want an exclamation mark in there. Now remember, here's where all of those Linux basics are coming into play. We use the echo command, and now here I am using the redirection symbol greater than, which means append, right? So we're going to append. Remember, if I did this, AACC.txt, that is overwriting what's already in the file. And we don't want to do that. We want to append at the end of the file some additional text. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's validate that that is actually what happened. And so now we've got our 2 lines here. I'm on my way to passing the Cisco DevASC exam, and I'm beginning to understand Git. Now, how can I verify that Git actually noticed that there's a change that's been made to that file? Remember, we are now tracking this file. So let's clear our screen here. And again, the git status command is going to be your best friend here. So take a look at what we've got going on here now. So change is not staged for commit. In other words, I'm basically in what Git looks at as the working directory, right? I haven't staged these things yet. So if I wanted to commit them, I first need to get them into the staging area. And we know that to do that, we can use the git add command. And that's going to update what needs to be committed. Now, if you take a look at git restore, that's going to discard the changes in the working directory, right? So it's going to discard the changes that we made. However, here we want to keep those changes. So let's get this file into the staging area with the git add command. Now let's say git status and see what Git's going to tell us. Okay, cool. So we're no longer red up here, Git saying, hey, red alert, changes have been made to the file, but it hasn't been staged yet. So if you go to commit things, that file right there at that point would not get committed. And we wouldn't be tracking those changes. But here we can see we're lit up green light, right? So we're ready to go. Now, when we do our commit, I'm going to say git commit and -m, and let's add a quick comment in here. Added some very, very important lines to my Python script, right? For example, and you could put your initials in there, whatever the case may be. However, we're just going to go ahead and hit enter. Now, you'll notice right here, and they pointed out, you noticed earlier I grabbed the entire hash, but there's this little portion of the hash right here that we can use from here on out, right? Or that I could use from here on out that you see listed right there. And I'm sorry, this is the front end of that hash. So let's take a look at some commands here. So if I say git log, you can see that there's the commit SHA-1 hash. However, if we look right here, A110140, that is the beginning of that hash. So I used the entire thing earlier, just, easy, double click, boom, off we go. However, we could get away with just referring to it using that portion there. And let's see how that might work. If I say git show, and I'm going to have to do the mouse copy and the mouse paste, and we hit enter, and there we go, right? So we get that same information that we got when I used the entire line, but git show, right, is focused on this commit. And we want to know what was different, right? And this is where we receive back the output from, excuse me, from this diff command here between version A, version B, right? And when we see the plus sign, that means this was added, right? I'm beginning to understand get, and I am on my way to passing the DEVASC exam. So if we go back up here, or I'm sorry, we don't even have to go back up there. I can just simply cat the file. My apologies, I was going to go where we displayed it. So if I cat DEVASC, you can see that's what we added. That's the line, whoops, sorry. This is the line right here that the little plus sign's in front of when we say git show and use the first 6 digits of the commit hash. And it's going to show me what changed. So let's see what happens if we make another change. Again, the lab kind of stops right there, at least for part 4, but we're interested in this. So what if I was to echo something else out? Let's echo, this is the 3rd line in this file. And we're going to append it to DEVASC.txt. Now, if I say git status, you can see we've made changes to that source file, right? So git, which is tracking that file, is like, hey, whoa, you've got changes made here. If you commit right now, these are in the working directory. They're not going to be maintained. So let's use git add devasc.txt, and that dumps it into the staging area. So we say git status now, and we can see, oh, okay, hey, cool, this is in the staging area. Now, I can unstage this with that git restore, right? And we could do that, but we're not going to do that. We want to see a 3rd change here. So I'm going to say git commit -m, and then let's put our commit comment in here, which is going to be just added a very, very important 3rd line to my Python file. All right, so that's our commit. And so if we say git status, we should see everything is in the clear, nothing to commit, working branch is clean because we just did the commit. Let's go ahead and type git log, excuse me. And you can see that these are being listed out from top to bottom, most recent at the top, most recent commit at the top, and then the second most recent, and then the oldest commit, right? So when we look at the very, very top here, this is what we're looking for. So there are the 6 characters that I would want to focus on if I was going to use that git show command. But you can see now we've got 3 commits that have been made here. So let's go ahead and say git show, and let's paste in the first 6 digits of that commit number. Commit hash, I apologize. All right, so now you can see we've got the plus sign in front of that line. So these 2 lines of code already existed in the file, and we're going to dig into what you're seeing here in just a little bit. But these 2 lines are white, and that indicates that, hey, those were already in there. The plus sign is indicating that the 3rd line was just added. Okay, well, let's take a look at another scenario here. What if I go into the DEVASC file? I'm going to VI into that file because I'm not going to append things now. Now I'm deleting a line, right? So I say git status. Git is tracking that file. It says, hey, you need to add that file if you want me to commit the changes when you type in commit. Now if I say git status, you'll see that the git file is there ready to be committed. So let's go ahead and get it into the staging area first. So git add, and actually I'm trying to think I already did that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I did add it to the staging area. Sorry, so I added it to the staging area. So now we're going to say git commit -m, and did not need 3rd line, so deleted it. Aha. And so now you can see one file changed. Git's telling me, hey, one file has been changed and there's been a deletion that's taken place. So let's say git log to see the changes that have taken place here. And we'll, oops, run them all the way through. And let me go back up here to where we've got, there we go. And so you can see here, I said git log. And so the most recent commit, let's grab those 3, 4, 5, 6 characters right there, and we'll keep them in our buffer. But you can see did not need the third line, so deleted it. So if you're looking at this from a forensic perspective, right, and you're working with somebody maybe, or you're trying to remember, you know, maybe your program is pretty large and you're trying to remember what in the world did I do the last time I changed this file, and you've come back to it after a while, and you see with git log, oh, that's right, I didn't need that third line, so I popped the third line out of there. Okay, and then off I go. But this is giving me a history. And now you can see the value of something like get as opposed to just making copies of files, because it might be a little difficult to keep track of all of this great information about this file by just making copies of the file, right? Where here, get is doing all of the heavy lifting for us. So let's go ahead now and, oops, sorry. Let's go ahead, I'll clear the screen. I'm gonna type git show branch, right? Excuse me. And so this is showing me the primary branch, and it's showing me the last thing that happened in the primary branch. And that's git show branch by default. That is what it's going to show you, the last thing that was done on this branch. Now, what if I wanted to see some more stuff? Maybe I want to see the last 20 things that were done. Well, you can see we haven't done 20 things, but this is going to show me everything that we have done up until and it starts with the most recent change, and then take a look at that. Added a very important third line, okay. Added some, so I can go back real quickly here and do a git show branch, and that's going to show me a bunch of the information. As always, you can do the git show, and I should have, there we go, that in there. And now take a look down here as to what's going on. It's highlighted in red and it has a minus sign in front of it, and what this is telling me is, hey, you just, that this commit, that the difference between this commit and the previous commit is that the third line has been removed, right? Well, we know it's the third line because it says in here the third line, but you can also see right up in here that now we have 2 lines, right? We have lines 1 and 2, and lines 1 through 3 were modified because we got rid of that third line. So we're left with lines 1 and 2. And it also shows you the index, right, of the commits that are being looked at. And that's what you're seeing here with these numbers that are, or with these hexadecimal characters that are there. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at git diff. Right now we saw the difference output there, but I could put in, and actually what I should probably do here is I'm going to need git log. So if I was to say git diff, I could say, okay, what is the difference between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, between this one where we deleted the third line and the previous one? Whoops, in the previous one. Now, we saw it earlier, but this is just another way, because maybe you wanted to take a look at the difference between, you know, the most recent commit and the very first commit. But this is going to show us the difference between those 2 files, right? And again, it's the difference. So what was the difference between the most recent one and the previous one? And it was that that line existed, right? And that's why we've got that plus in there showing you that, hey, that line was in, that's the difference, is that this line was in the previous commit, but not the most recent one. That's what that's trying to show you, right? And you can see that, again, we've got the -1, 2, because that's the most recent one. And then the previous one prior to that, we had all 3 of those lines. And so that's a way that you can use those commit IDs to take a look at the differences between the original commit ID, which is the first commit ID, and then the latest commit ID, which is the second one. And again, the plus sign at the end, followed by the text, indicates that the content was appended to the file. All right, so now we're kind of getting into things here, no pun intended, with Git. And if I take a look at Git status, everything's looking good. What if I said, oops, sorry, not bin. What if I said find object, oh, sorry, I didn't want to do objects. Or yeah, we did. I didn't want to do objects. Where are we at here? Git intro, DevASC. Oh yeah. So we're going to do find on .git/objects. And let's see what we see now. Yeah. So we're seeing a ton of these hashes in the objects directory, right? And these are all related to the changes that we've been making. In fact, some of these should look pretty familiar, right? At least the front end, depending on if you're looking at it by the front end or the back end. But this is how Git is keeping track of all of the commits and the changes that we're making. All right. Well, this is going to wrap up part 4 of Software Version Control with Git Lab 3.3.11. Next, we're going to get into the tricky part of Git, and that is branches and merging. And I'm going to show you a phenomenal online tutorial that can help you in your understanding of branches and then merging those branches back together. All right. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.